Hey, welcome back to the Fourfold Path. This isn't a podcast about making the perfect solo TTRPG system. It's about making meaning first and letting the system come in later to support that. Hi, I'm Jordan. I got my PhD in artificial intelligence back in 2012. I've been working in the software industry ever since. These days, I'm an AI strategist for a software product consultancy. What that means is that clients come to us, they have a need for someone to build software on their behalf or to augment their teams and help them build software. I listen to the client need and identify places where AI could help them, and then I help estimate what that would cost to build, all the way through to fielding the product potentially as an individual contributor. I'm also a trans woman, and I'm an author. I write spicy fantasy stories under a different name in my free time. I keep those identities separate, not the transness, but the authorial voice and the consulting voice, mostly as a courtesy to some of our more conservative clients. But in this podcast, this is for me, and for you hopefully, but the whole me. And well, if that's uncomfortable, you'll be uncomfortable, but you'll be in good company. I'm uncomfortable too. And I'm still here, so I hope you stay around as well. I got into tabletop gaming because I love stories and playing pretend. Systems were a great addition to the whole experience because you moved away from the I got you, nuh-uh, of youth to a place where rules actually arbitrated or served as arbiter of what happened in the fiction, and they provided a clear way of sharing the spotlight among characters and players in the game. I got into solo role playing because it was hard to find a group. Being an adult sucks in many ways. Leaving college is terrible for many reasons, but first and foremost, you don't live with a whole bunch of nerds that might want to play RPGs with you anymore. Like many of you, I suspect, I picked up solo tabletop seriously during the COVID years. And I've stuck with them because I can explore things in solo RPGs that I'd be really uncomfortable bringing to the table with a group of strangers or even a group of friends. Before I had the language for queerness, I was already sort of working through it in the stories I told at the table and in my fiction writing. Largely through the characters I created, through the choices I let them make, and the realities that they explored. And that's why I'm still here, and maybe it's why you're here too. This podcast is called The Fourfold Path. It's not a spiritual enlightenment thing intentionally, but you never know. But it's meant to be a structure that lets me approach solo play from 4 angles. So there are going to be some episodes that are just play. Raw, this is what I do when I sit down with a solo RPG sessions, recorded, lightly edited, so that it's not boring to watch me hem and haw and my way through what the hell does this pair of nouns mean. There's going to be some process episodes where we reflect on what happened in the solo session, how our system supported us or didn't, and what was surprising about the play. Once we've got an arc done-ish, I'm going to do some dramatizations of those play sessions. These will be edited, voiced, and shaped into a story. I do like to write, after all, so I'm going to indulge myself in that way. And when we get around to it, when we've uncovered pieces of friction that are common, that are frequent enough, we'll be investigating some systems. That'll be episodes about building tools and, for want of a better word, workflows that support our solo play. But we'll not start there. We're only going to bring those in when it's obviously like, I need something here. Episodes will drop bi-weekly, ideally. Each arc should be made up of multiple play sessions, as I said, and 1 or more process episodes. A performance episode is going to kind of be the capstone there, and the system episodes will be interspersed as warranted. Whenever we find we need something, we'll be building one of those together. My intent is to start with a lit RPG story. It's something I've been working on for months and months as a fiction piece and just not getting anywhere. So not the type of lit RPG story you might be familiar with, though. The kind that's full of, experience bars and boss fights. I want a lit RPG story that leans into tabletop RPG mechanics and structure instead of video games and MMOs. Character arcs, drama, dice, narrative cause and effect, that kind of thing. Like I said, I've been struggling with this as a book, as a fiction piece for months now. I've got a couple of half-completed drafts behind me, tens of thousands of words and pretty involved outlines, and it doesn't feel right every time I try it. So I'm hopeful that by going closer to the source, by doing it as a sort of solo play radio drama, it might be a lighter lift to get that out of my head and into a place where people can consume it. The mechanics I'll be using will be based on the Cypher system, which I think handles things like character growth and arcs extremely well. And I think it complements the Mythic Game Master emulator. Character arcs and threads in Mythic tie nicely together. Mythic's chaos factor and Cypher's GM intrusions are also pretty well aligned. So when I play solo, this is often the combination that I use. As I said in the teaser, but I'll bring it up again, my stories tend to circle around the themes that I like for myself and in my writing, and those tend to be things like queerness, recovery, failure, growth, and hope. I especially like stories where people go after what it is that they want and then discover that that isn't important to them, and here's what they actually need and get it. I also like love stories, and I personally like my love messy, like both from a fluids perspective and also from a, real love is gnarly and it's got weird corners and the characters don't always fit together perfectly, but they find a way to make it work. I also like my characters messy, for what that's worth. You'll be able to find me on Blue Sky, my personal website, and by email. All of that will be linked in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you about how solo play shows up in your life, what it helps you explore, what you're building right now, and what surprised you in your games. Make sure to bring your whole self. I'm putting myself out here too, so, meet me where I'm at. So why manual first? I said I'm a software person by trade, and I'm a tinkerer at heart. But I'm not gonna start by building stuff out the gate. It doesn't make sense to start with tooling yet, because I don't really know what I need. I have some suspicions, right? I've played enough solo games to know what can feel frictiony and what can go wrong. But I haven't played specifically with an eye towards what feels bad. So this show is about growth and creation and discovery. And in the sense that irritation makes pearls, I'm going to start by experiencing that friction and taking note of it in the reflection episodes. Once we've got, a couple of common points of friction, I'll be like, oh, now we can make a system that helps with that. So, like I said, I'm going to be doing a Cypher-backed lit RPG story. We're not going to start with AI tools or code. It's just going to be me, the Oracle, and some questions that I need answered for the narrative. Before we begin, though, I have to do a little world building. We need to know something about our characters, and we need to make sure that there are mechanics that support the kind of stories we want to tell. Cypher is a generic role-playing game system, and it deals fairly well with fantasies and sci-fi and superheroes, but at least one of our characters is going to be a software person in our world, and although there are horror games set in relatively modern times that are built on top of the Cypher system, I think we're going to need some custom skills and feats to accommodate her interacting mechanically with her world. Anyway, doing that work to make sure that there are mechanics to support the story, that's the work. Any consultant will tell you that stories are powerful, and a good consultant will tell you that the right system can reduce your cognitive load and let you focus on the work that matters. Here, shaping stories, building systems to support them, and reflecting on what both reveal, that's the difference that makes a difference in the tools we build, in the stories we tell, and ideally in ourselves. So I hope you'll join me for the next session, where we'll start with some world building in the Cypher system. Until then.